The transport ship descended through the purple atmosphere of Viridian Prime, carrying the newest class of cadets to Theros Military Academy. Inside the passenger bay, warriors from 12 different species sat in silent anticipation. Their bodies were tense, their minds focused on the challenge ahead. Everyone knew the reputation of Theros Academy. Only the best of the best received invitations. Only the strongest survived the program. Daeho sat near the back, looking out the window at the strange alien landscape below. Mountains made of crystal jutted up from green oceans. Cities floated in the sky, held aloft by technology he didn't understand. It was beautiful in a weird sort of way. He pulled out a rice ball from his lunchbox and took a bite. His grandmother had packed it for him that morning along with kimchi, dried squid, and several thermoses of soup. She had insisted he would need proper food, not whatever strange things aliens eat. The cadet sitting next to him stared. She had 4 arms and skin that looked like purple crystal. Her name was Mirai, and she was from the warrior planet Zalthar. Her people were famous throughout the galaxy for their sword-fighting skills. "You are eating?" she asked, her translator device making her voice sound mechanical. "Yeah," Daeho said through a mouthful of rice. "Want some? My grandmother makes the best rice balls." Mirai looked confused but shook her head. "We arrive at the academy in 10 minutes. This is time for mental preparation, not consumption." Daeho shrugged and finished his rice ball. He had done plenty of training programs before. He knew the drill. Everyone got nervous before the first day, but it was never as bad as people imagined. Besides, being hungry made everything worse. His old instructor had taught him that. The ship landed with a soft hum. The bay doors opened, revealing a massive courtyard made of black stone. Hundreds of cadets filed out, forming neat rows. Daeho walked casually, his duffel bag slung over one shoulder, his lunchbox tucked under his arm. Other cadets wore formal uniforms or traditional armor from their homeworlds. Daeho wore standard Earth military fatigues and comfortable boots. At the front of the courtyard stood Commander Velthar, a towering reptilian creature with scales that shimmered green and gold. His eyes were yellow and cold, scanning the assembled cadets like a predator choosing prey. "Welcome to Theros Military Academy," his voice boomed across the courtyard. "You are here because your governments believe you are warriors. You are here because you believe you are strong. You are wrong. True strength will be forged here, or you will break trying." The commander's words echoed in the silence. Several cadets shifted nervously. "For the next 12 weeks, you will face challenges that will test every aspect of your being. Physical endurance, mental resilience, combat skill, survival instinct. 60% of you will not complete this program. Some will quit, some will be injured, some will simply fail." He paused, letting that sink in. "Those who survive will join the ranks of the Galactic Defense Force as elite warriors." A figure approached from the side. She was tall and slender, with pale blue skin and silver hair that moved like water. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. This was Hana, one of the Academy's senior instructors. "I will now assign each of you to your liaison officer," Commander Velthar announced. "They will guide you through orientation." Names were called. Cadets stepped forward one by one. Finally, Hana called out, "Daeho!" "Human from Earth." Daeho walked over, still carrying his lunchbox. Hana looked him up and down, her expression unreadable. "Follow me," she said simply. They walked through corridors made of smooth metal that seemed to glow from within. Other cadets and instructors passed by, all moving with purpose. Hana stopped at a door that slid open with a hiss. "This is your quarters," she said. "You have 1 hour to settle in, then report to Training Hall 7 for the opening demonstration." The room was small but functional. A bed, a desk, a storage locker. Daeho set down his bag and carefully placed his lunchbox in the small cooling unit. Hana watched him with a puzzled expression. "You brought food from your planet?" she asked. "Yeah, my grandmother insisted. She doesn't trust alien food. The Academy provides nutritionally optimized meals for all species." "I'm sure it's fine," Daeho said. "But nothing beats home cooking, you know." Hana made a note on her datapad. "Tell me about your military experience." "I served in Earth's Special Forces for 6 years. Did the usual stuff. Training, missions, more training. Got recommended for this program by my commander." "What makes you qualified for Theros Academy?" Daeho thought about it. "I'm good at not quitting." "That's pretty much it." Hana made another note. She asked him several more questions about Earth, about his training, about his expectations. Daeho answered honestly and simply. He got the feeling she was testing him somehow, but he couldn't figure out how. An hour later, Daeho stood in Training Hall 7 with about 30 other cadets. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch up forever. In the center was a large combat arena with a smooth floor. Commander Velthar stood at the edge of the arena. Each of you will now demonstrate your species' primary combat advantage. This will help us understand your capabilities and design appropriate training protocols. One by one, cadets stepped forward. A Kryn warrior showed incredible strength, lifting a weight that must have been 2 tons. A flying species demonstrated aerial combat maneuvers. Taman, a tall, slim warrior from the Ethan homeworld, did something that made him flicker in and out of view, as if he was phasing through time itself. Then Mirai stepped forward. Her forearms drew 4 training swords simultaneously. She moved through a complex form, the blades whistling through the air in perfect coordination. It was beautiful and deadly. The other cadets nodded with respect. Daeho Human, you're next, Commander Velthar called. Daeho walked to the center of the arena. He looked around at all the expectant faces. These were warriors from advanced civilizations, species with natural advantages built into their biology. Humans didn't have extra arms or the ability to phase through time or super strength. He dropped to the floor and started doing push-ups. Standard form, steady pace. After 50, he switched to sit-ups, then jumping jacks, then a set of burpees, basic exercises that any human soldier learned in boot camp. The hall was completely silent. Commander Velthar's expression was somewhere between confusion and disappointment. That is your species' advantage? Daeho stood up, barely breathing hard. Humans don't really have special abilities. We just keep going. Endurance, I guess? Endurance, the commander repeated as if the word was foreign. Very well. As Daeho walked back to his spot, he could hear whispers from the other cadets. Some were laughing quietly. Others looked confused. A few, like Mirai, seemed genuinely curious. Hana was standing against the wall, her datapad in hand. She was frowning slightly, her silver hair rippling with what might have been concern. She pulled up Earth's file in the Galactic database. The entry was short. Earth was classified as a developing world. Technology level, primitive. Military capability, limited. Threat assessment, minimal. Something about that didn't match what she had just seen. The human hadn't demonstrated anything impressive, but there was something in his eyes. A calm that seemed out of place. Like someone who had seen worse things than an academy demonstration. She made a note to investigate further. There had to be more to humans than the database suggested. The Galactic Council didn't invite species to Theros Academy as a joke. If Earth had been selected, there was a reason. She just needed to figure out what that reason was before the training broke everyone, including the unimpressive human who cared more about his lunch than proving himself to the galaxy. His alarm blared at 400 hours, a harsh sound that made Daeho's teeth ache. He rolled out of bed, splashed cold water on his face, and got dressed. First day of actual training. Around him, in identical rooms throughout the barracks, 200 cadets were doing the same thing. The courtyard was cold. Viridian Prime's sun hadn't risen yet, and 3 moons hung in the sky, casting strange shadows. All the cadets assembled in formation, their breath visible in the frigid air. Some were shivering. Others looked excited, eager to prove themselves. Commander Velthar stood before them, looking wide awake despite the early hour. Today begins your physical conditioning. We will start with a simple morning exercise, a 50-kilometer run. You will carry a pack weighing 150 kilograms. The gravity on this training field is set to twice your homeworld standard. You have 4 hours to complete the course. Murmurs rippled through the formation. 50 kilometers was a marathon. With heavy weight and double gravity, it would push everyone to their limits. One more thing, the commander added with something that might have been a smile. Breakfast is served only to those who finish within the time limit. Begin. The cadets moved to collect their packs. Daeho hefted his onto his shoulders. It was heavy, but not impossibly so. He had carried similar loads during mountain training back on Earth. The gravity was noticeable, making everything feel sluggish, but again, not impossible. The run began. The course wound through artificial terrain, hills, valleys, obstacles. Daeho settled into a steady pace. Not too fast, not too slow. He had learned long ago that endurance was about conserving energy. Sprint at the start and you die at the end. Around him, other cadets were employing different strategies. Some with enhanced strength tried to run fast early. Others with natural speed advantages zipped ahead. A few flying species were arguing with instructors about whether they could use their wings. By the 10-kilometer mark, the pack was already breaking the formation. The fastest cadets were far ahead. Some were falling behind. Deho maintained his steady pace somewhere in the middle of the pack. By 20 kilometers, cadets were starting to struggle. The Kryn warrior who had lifted 2 tons was breathing hard, his scales slick with sweat. Taemin was using his time-phasing ability to give himself micro-breaks, but even that was starting to show strain. Deho's legs burned. His shoulders ached from the pack. But pain was just information, his body telling him it was working hard. He acknowledged it and kept running. At 30 kilometers, cadets were dropping out. Some collapsed on the side of the trail. Medical teams rushed to help them. Others simply stopped, unable to continue, their pride broken by the realization that they couldn't complete even the first training exercise. Mirai passed Daiho, her forearms pumping with determination. Her crystal skin was cracked in places from the strain, but she pushed forward. She was a warrior. Quitting wasn't in her vocabulary. At 40 kilometers, the field had thinned dramatically. Only about 70 cadets were still moving. Some were limping. Others were crying while they ran, refusing to give up despite the pain. Deho checked his mental timer. He had been running for 3 hours and 20 minutes. The finish line was 10 kilometers ahead. He had 40 minutes. It would be tight, but manageable. He increased his pace slightly. Not a sprint, just a faster jog. His body protested, but he ignored it. This was nothing compared to Hell Week back in basic training. That had been 5 days of continuous physical torture, with maybe 4 hours of sleep total. This was just a long run with a heavy pack. The finish line appeared in the distance. A simple banner stretched across the trail. Medical personnel waited there with water and aid stations. Deho crossed with 12 minutes to spare. He dropped his pack, accepted a water bottle, and sat down to stretch. Other cadets staggered across the line. Mirai made it with 8 minutes left, all forearms trembling with exhaustion. Taemin barely made it with 2 minutes remaining, his phasing ability completely drained. By the time the 4-hour limit expired, only 53 cadets had finished. Almost a quarter of the class eliminated on the first day. Commander Velthar walked among the survivors. Adequate. Those who finished may eat. The rest will try again tomorrow after watching their classmates eat. The dining hall was quiet except for the sounds of exhausted eating. Deho had brought his own breakfast: rice, eggs, kimchi, and some soup from his thermos. The alien food was available at a buffet, but he wanted something familiar. Hana sat down across from him, carrying a tray of blue gel and some kind of grain. "You finished with time to spare," she observed. "Yeah, it was a good workout." "A good workout," she repeated. 50 kilometers with 150 kilograms in double gravity is a good workout? Deho nodded, chewing his rice. "Back home, we did similar training in the mountains. Sometimes longer distances. This was flatter, so easier in some ways." Hana made a note on her datapad. "Tell me about this training." "Ruck marches, we called them. Standard stuff for infantry. You carry your gear and walk long distances. Builds endurance and mental toughness. The longest I did was 80 kilometers over rough terrain. That took about 15 hours. And this is normal for human soldiers?" "Pretty normal, yeah. Not fun, but normal." Hana's expression was unreadable. She asked him a few more questions about Earth's military training, making notes the entire time. That afternoon, the real work began. Physical training continued with obstacle courses, strength exercises, and combat drills. The gravity remained at double standard. The exercises were designed to push cadets beyond their limits. Deho moved through the stations methodically. Rope climbs, wall scaling, crawling under barriers, lifting and carrying various weights. His body was tired from the morning run, but he kept moving, slow and steady. Around him, cadets were struggling. The obstacle course was designed for species with different body types and abilities. Some obstacles were nearly impossible for certain species, while easy for others. The point seemed to be that everyone would fail at something. But Deho just kept trying. If he couldn't climb the rope fast, he climbed it slow. If he couldn't lift the weight overhead, he carried it at chest level. There was always a way to complete the task if you didn't give up. By evening, more cadets had dropped out. The medical facility was full of injured warriors nursing pulled muscles, broken bones, and exhausted bodies. Dinner was the same as breakfast, only for those who completed all the stations. Deho unpacked another meal from his lunchbox: rice balls, dried squid, and more kimchi, Mirai collapsed into the seat next to him, her crystal skin showing more cracks. How? She asked simply. How what? How were you not destroyed? My people are warriors. We train from childhood. Today broke me, yet you sit eating as if it was nothing. Deho thought about how to answer. It's not nothing. I'm tired. Everything hurts. But pain is temporary. You just keep going until it's done. Just keep going, Mirai repeated as if testing the words. That's pretty much the human strategy for everything, Deho said with a small smile. That night, Hana sat in her office reviewing the day's data. 53 cadets completed the run. 41 completed the full day of training. The human was among them. Nothing special about his performance. No records broken. No incredible displays of ability. He was solidly in the middle of the pack for most metrics. Except one. The human had not stopped, not once. Every other cadet had taken breaks, even small ones. Moments to catch their breath or recover. The human just kept moving from task to task without pause. She pulled up Earth's file again. The entry was still minimal, but there was a linked database of Earth's history. She started reading. An hour later, she was still reading. Her hands were shaking. Earth wasn't a developing world. It was classified as a death world, a planet where the environment itself was actively hostile to life. Extreme temperatures, natural disasters, diseases, predators. The list went on, and humans had not only survived but thrived. They had spread across their entire planet, adapting to every environment. Deserts, tundras, jungles, mountains, places where most galactic species would die within hours. She found Earth's military history. Thousands of years of warfare, conflicts that lasted generations, training programs designed to break soldiers and rebuild them, special forces units where 30% of candidates died or were permanently injured during selection. The program she was running, the one designed to push elite alien warriors to their absolute limits, was rated as moderate difficulty compared to Earth's special forces training. Hana stood and walked to the window. Outside in the barracks, 200 cadets were sleeping. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Sleep deprivation training, 72 hours of continuous exercises with no rest. It was designed to break even the strongest minds, to find those with true warrior spirit. She had a terrible feeling that for the human it would just be another normal Tuesday. The sleep deprivation training began at midnight. All 41 remaining cadets were assembled in the main training complex. Commander Veltar stood before them, his yellow eyes gleaming in the artificial light. For the next 72 hours you will not sleep. You will exercise continuously. Combat drills, physical conditioning, mental exercises, and tactical scenarios. Some of you will hallucinate. Some will collapse. This is expected. This is the point. We must know who can function when their body and mind are breaking down. The first 12 hours were manageable. Running strength exercises, combat practice. Deho moved through the drills on autopilot. He had done sleep deprivation training before. The key was to keep moving and not think too much about being tired. By hour 24, cadets were starting to show serious strain. Eyes were red and unfocused. Movements became sloppy. During hand-to-hand combat drills, some cadets were falling asleep while standing up, only to jerk awake when they hit the ground. Deho sat during a brief water break, slowly eating a rice ball. His eyes felt gritty and his body was heavy with fatigue. But he had been more tired before. Hell Week had been worse. Bud's training had been worse. This was just long and boring. Mirai sat next to him, all four arms trembling slightly. Her crystal skin had more cracks now, stress fractures from the continuous strain. How are you eating? She asked, her voice thick with exhaustion. Gotta keep energy up, Deho said. Low blood sugar makes everything harder. I cannot imagine food right now. My stomach refuses. Yeah, that's normal. But you should try to eat something small, even if you don't want to. Mirai accepted a piece of dried squid from his lunchbox. She chewed it slowly, forcing it down. At hour 48, the situation became critical. 3 cadets had collapsed and been removed by medical teams. Several others were hallucinating, seeing things that weren't there. One Ethan warrior was having a full conversation with someone invisible. Taman was in bad shape. His time-phasing ability had stopped working completely. His species evolved on a planet with low stress and long rest periods. Going without sleep was destroying him. He swayed on his feet during formation, his eyes glazed and empty. Deho was tired, very tired. His body felt like it was made of lead, but his mind was still clear. He focused on small things. The next exercise, the next meal, the next step, breaking time into manageable chunks. During a tactical exercise, he noticed Taman starting to fall. Without thinking, Deho caught him and helped him stand. "Stay with me," Deho said quietly. "Just a little longer. You can do this." Taman looked at him with unfocused eyes. "Cannot, too tired. I know. But you haven't quit yet. That means you're stronger than you think." An instructor noticed and barked at them to keep moving. Deho supported Taman as they continued the exercise. At hour 56, during a scheduled 5-minute rest period, Deho sat cross-legged and ate more food from his lunchbox. Kimchi fried rice this time, still somehow warm in the thermal container. Other cadets stared at him with exhausted confusion, some with resentment. How was he still eating? Hana approached with her ever-present datapad. "Cadet Deho, follow me." He stood and followed her to a small observation room away from the main floor. Inside, Commander Velthar was waiting. "Sit," the commander ordered. Deho sat, still holding his rice container. "You are not using stimulants," Velthar said. It wasn't a question. "No, sir." "You are not genetically enhanced." "No, sir. Just regular human." "Then explain how you are functioning better than cadets from warrior species with superior biology." Deho thought about it while chewing. "I've done this before, sir. My body knows how to handle it. Also, I keep eating and drinking water. That helps." "You've done this before," Velthar repeated slowly. "Sleep deprivation for 72 hours is standard human training?" "For special forces, yes, sir. Well, sometimes longer. My Hell Week was 5 days with maybe 4 hours of total sleep. This is only 3 days." The room was silent except for the sound of Deho eating. Hana spoke up. "Commander, I've been researching Earth's military training. Their special forces selection courses have mortality rates between 2 and 5%. Candidates die during training. Regularly." Velthar's scales rippled, a sign of distress in his species. "Die during peacetime training?" "Yes, sir," Deho confirmed. "It's not common, but it happens. Cold exhaustion, drowning, accidents. The training is designed to find people who won't quit even when quitting is the smart choice." "That is barbaric," Velthar said. Deho shrugged. "Maybe, but Earth is a rough place. We need soldiers who can handle rough situations." Hana pulled up a holodisplay. "Commander, Earth is classified as a death world. Average temperature variance of 100 degrees. Regular natural disasters. Thousands of diseases. Predators that hunt humans. The human body evolved to survive constant threat." "I am aware," Velthar said quietly. He had spent the last week reading everything he could find about Earth. Each new piece of information was more horrifying than the last. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" Deho asked. "Granted. This training is hard, but it's fair. Everyone is suffering equally. That's good training. Back home we have a saying, pain is weakness leaving the body. It's not really true, but it helps when things are bad. Maybe some of the other cadets need to hear that." Velthar studied the human for a long moment. Returned to training. After Deho left, Velthar turned to Hana. "What have we done?" "We invited a species of persistence predators to train with our elite warriors." "The human seems friendly, sir." "Predators are always friendly until they are hunting. Humans hunted their prey by following them for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They are endurance hunters. This entire academy is designed around endurance. Should we stop the training?" "No, the other cadets need to learn. They need to see what real endurance looks like." Velthar pulled up Earth's file again. "The Galactic Council has made a grave error. They assessed humans as primitive and weak. They are neither. They are survivors from a world that tried to kill them for millions of years. At hour 70, only 23 cadets were still functional. The others had been removed for medical treatment or had quit. Deho was still moving, still eating when breaks allowed, still helping other cadets when he could. Mirai was barely standing, held up by pure warrior pride. Taman had given up his body to autopilot, his consciousness somewhere far away. The final 2 hours were a blur of exercises that no one performed well. Everyone was just trying to survive until the clock ran out. Finally, mercifully, Commander Velthar called an end to the exercise. "Sleep, you have 12 hours. Do not waste them." Cadets collapsed where they stood. Some had to be carried to their bunks. Deho walked back to his room on trembling legs, fell onto his bed, and was asleep before his head hit the pillow. He slept for 11 hours and woke up feeling sore but functional. He ate a large breakfast from his supplies, showered, and reported for the next training session. When he arrived at the training hall, only 15 other cadets were there. Several were missing, presumably still sleeping or recovering. Mirai was there, looking exhausted but determined. Taemin was there, though he looked like he might blow away in a strong wind. Hana was waiting for him. "How are you feeling?" "Sore, tired, but okay." "You slept 11 hours?" "Yes, ma'am." Most cadets are still sleeping. Some might sleep for 24 hours or more. Their bodies need recovery time. That's normal. Is it normal for humans to recover so quickly? Daeho considered the question. "I think we're just used to this kind of thing. Our bodies know how to bounce back." Hana made another note. Her file on humans was growing longer every day, and more terrifying. She was beginning to understand why the Galactic Council had invited Earth to send a representative. Not because they thought humans were weak and needed training, but because they needed to assess what humans were capable of, and what she was learning suggested that humans were capable of far more than anyone had imagined. The terrifying part was that Daeho seemed to think all of this was completely normal. Just another day of training. Nothing special. She wondered what humans would consider actually difficult, and she hoped she would never have to find out. Week 6 brought environmental adaptation training. The cadets were led to a massive facility that could simulate any planetary condition. Extreme heat, freezing cold, low oxygen, high pressure, acidic atmospheres. Every hostile environment in the galaxy could be recreated here. Only 21 cadets remained from the original 200. Standing in the briefing room, they looked like survivors of a war. Mirai's crystal skin was covered in hairline fractures. Taemin had lost visible weight, his already slim frame now almost skeletal. Others bore the marks of their ordeal, scars, limps, thousand-yard stares. Daeho looked tired but otherwise normal. He was eating a thermal container of his grandmother's soup, while Commander Velthar explained the training. "You will spend 24 hours in each environment. No protective gear beyond basic clothing. Your species may have evolved for specific conditions, but warriors must adapt to any battlefield. The environments will be as follows. Arctic cold at -40 degrees, desert heat at 60 degrees, high altitude with half oxygen, and underwater pressure equivalent to 200 meters depth." Several cadets shifted nervously. These were extremes that could kill within hours. The first test was Arctic cold. The cadets were given basic insulated clothing and sent into a chamber that quickly dropped to -40 degrees Celsius. Wind machines created a blizzard effect. The cold was immediate and vicious. Most species in the galaxy evolved on temperate worlds. Extreme cold was alien to their biology. Within the first hour, several cadets were showing signs of hypothermia. Their species simply couldn't generate enough body heat. Daeho found a sheltered spot behind a snowbank and sat down. He pulled out his remaining food supplies and ate steadily, letting his body burn calories to generate warmth. He did jumping jacks every 20 minutes to keep blood flowing. He remembered winter training in the mountains back home. This was cold, but he had experienced worse. Mirai struggled over to him, her crystal skin turning dull in the cold. "You have a technique?" she asked through chattering teeth. "Stay moving. Keep eating. Don't let yourself fall asleep. My people are from a warm world. This cold is killing me, I know, but you're still here. That's what matters." Daeho shared some of his dried squid with her. "Eat this. Your body needs fuel." By hour 12, 3 cadets had been evacuated with severe hypothermia. By hour 20, 7 more had quit, unable to endure the cold any longer. The remaining 11, including Daeho and Mirai, made it through the full 24 hours. The desert heat was next. 60 degrees Celsius under artificial sunlight that beat down like a hammer. The air was so dry it hurt to breathe. This was harder for different species. Those from cold worlds suffered immediately. Their bodies couldn't shed heat effectively. Daeho had done desert training in Southeast Asia. The heat was oppressive but manageable. He found shade, stayed still during the hottest hours, and drank water constantly. Taemin collapsed after 6 hours. His species required cool environments to function. The heat was literally cooking him. Medical teams rushed in to save him before brain damage occurred. Mirai lasted longer, but the heat was cracking her crystal skin even more. By hour 16, she was leaving a trail of crystal shards behind her. She pushed through to hour 22 before her body simply gave out. She had given everything she had. It wasn't enough. Deho watched her get carried away on a stretcher, still conscious but unable to move. He felt a genuine sadness. She was a true warrior, but sometimes biology won over willpower. 8 cadets remained. The high-altitude chamber was next. Half the normal oxygen at what would be equivalent to 8,000 meters elevation. Most species required more oxygen than humans. Their bodies were more efficient in some ways, but that efficiency required steady oxygen supply. Within the first hour, cadets were gasping. Their bodies couldn't adapt fast enough. One by one, they signaled for evacuation. Staying would mean permanent brain damage or death. Deho felt the altitude. His head hurt. His lungs worked harder for each breath. But humans had lived at high altitudes for thousands of years. His body knew how to handle this. He sat quietly, breathing slowly and deeply, letting his body adjust. By hour 6, he was alone. The last cadet had evacuated. Medical staff stood outside the chamber, watching through reinforced glass. Hana was there with Commander Velthar. "Should we stop this?" Hana asked. "He is the only one left. Can he survive?" Velthar asked the medical officer. The medical officer, a blob-like creature with multiple eyes, consulted its readings. His oxygen saturation is low but stable. Heart rate elevated but not dangerous. He appears to be adapting. Adapting? Velthar stared at the human sitting calmly in the chamber. In real time? Humans evolved at various altitudes on their world, Hana said, reading from her datapad. Some populations live permanently above 4,000 meters. Their bodies can increase red blood cell production in response to low oxygen. During the test? While experiencing the condition? Apparently. They watched Deho eat another rice ball, chewing slowly, breathing between bites. He looked uncomfortable but not panicked. Just another challenge to endure. He completed the full 24 hours. When he emerged from the chamber, he was pale and breathing hard, but walking under his own power. "How?" Commander Velthar asked simply. "Just took slow breaths," Deho said. "Let my body adjust. I felt lightheaded for a while, but it passed." "It passed," Velthar repeated. He looked at Hana. "Add this to your report. Human biology can adapt to environmental stress during exposure. No other known species can do this." The final environmental test was underwater pressure. The cadets who had survived the previous tests were given a second chance to attempt this one. 5 cadets entered the chamber, including Deho. The pressure increased slowly, simulating descent into deep water. At 200 meters equivalent depth, the pressure was immense. It felt like being crushed. Breathing required effort. Moving was difficult. The other 4 cadets lasted 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. Each eventually signaled for evacuation. The pressure was too much. Their species were not meant for deep water. Deho remained. He sat on the floor of the chamber, eyes closed, breathing carefully. Humans had been diving for thousands of years. Free diving, pearl diving, swimming to depths that should have been impossible. His body was afraid, screaming at him that this was dangerous. But fear was just another form of information. He lasted the full 24 hours. When the pressure finally normalized and the chamber opened, he stood up slowly, ears popping, and walked out. The medical staff swarmed him, checking for injuries. Burst blood vessels, ruptured eardrums, internal damage. They found nothing serious. Some bruising. Some stress on his circulatory system, but nothing permanent. Commander Velthar assembled the remaining cadets. Only 4 had survived all the environmental tests. Deho and 3 others who had managed to complete at least 1 environment each. But only Deho had survived all 4. "You have proven your ability to adapt," Velthar announced. "But adaptation means nothing without combat skill. Next week you will face the combat trials." That night, Velthar sat in his office with Hana. Between them was a holographic display showing data from the environmental tests. "Look at this," Hana said, highlighting several graphs. The human's heart rate, oxygen consumption, body temperature. They all adjusted during the tests. His biology responded in real time. "Evolution is not supposed to work this way," Velthar said. "It does on death worlds. Species that cannot adapt quickly die. Over millions of years, this creates organisms that can modify their biology during their lifetime. The word you are looking for is terrifying." "Yes, sir." "That too." Velthar pulled up another file. "I have been reading about human history. They call it history, but it should be called survival manual. Every generation faced extinction-level threats and survived. Ice ages, Diseases that killed half their population, predators, starvation, war. And they thrived despite it all. Because of it all, Velthar corrected. The challenges made them stronger. Natural selection at its most brutal. He closed the file. The Galactic Council invited them because they thought humans needed training. They were wrong. We need to learn from them. What will you tell the Council? The truth. That we have been training our warriors wrong. We have been making them specialists, giving them advantages and technology. But we have not been making them survivors. The humans can teach us how to simply refuse to die. Hana made a final note in her report. The human still has not shown any distress. He treats all of this as normal. That is because for him it is normal. His planet tried to kill him every day of his life. This academy is gentle by comparison. Outside in the barracks, Deho was finishing his last thermal container of soup. Tomorrow would bring combat trials, hand-to-hand fighting against the other survivors. He had trained in several martial arts, but he knew the other cadets were skilled too. He wasn't worried. Combat was just another challenge, and humans were very, very good at enduring challenges. Week 12 arrived. Final evaluation week. Of the 200 cadets who had started, only 15 remained. They stood in the main combat arena, exhausted but unbroken. Each had survived trials that would be legends on their homeworlds. Commander Velthar stood before them, his yellow eyes sweeping across the survivors. You have endured physical hardship, environmental extremes, mental exhaustion. You have proven you can survive. Now prove you can fight. The combat trials would be simple, full contact sparring with training weapons. Each cadet would face multiple opponents in succession. No abilities that could cause permanent harm, but everything else was allowed. Fight until you couldn't continue or your opponents couldn't continue. The matches began. The remaining cadets fought with everything they had. Skills learned over lifetimes of training, natural advantages granted by their biology, desperation to prove their worth after weeks of suffering. Mireille, who had recovered enough to return, fought with all four arms. Her sword work was poetry, even with training weapons. She defeated her first two opponents before the third overwhelmed her through sheer endurance. The Kryn warrior used his superior strength to dominate close combat. He picked up opponents and threw them. His thick scales absorbed blows that would have broken bones on other species. When Deho's name was called, he stepped into the arena holding a training staff. His opponents were 3 cadets who had survived different portions of the program. A Kryn for strength, an Ethon for speed, and a Viridian for tactical thinking. The fight began. The Kryn charged immediately, trying to use his strength advantage. Deho sidestepped and struck at joints, knees, elbows, places where even tough scales were vulnerable. Not power strikes, just quick, precise hits that added up over time. The Ethon tried to use speed, darting in and out with lightning attacks. Deho didn't try to match the speed. He positioned himself to limit angles of attack, made the Ethon come to him, then countered when openings appeared. The Viridian hung back, watching, trying to find patterns. Deho knew this game. He varied his rhythm, changed his tactics randomly, denied the pattern recognition that Viridian species relied on. 5 minutes into the match, the Ethon was breathing hard. His species had explosive speed but limited endurance. Deho kept pressure on, never giving time to recover. 10 minutes in, the Kryn's movements were slowing. Strength was useless if you couldn't land blows. The constant movement, the defensive fighting, it was wearing him down. 15 minutes. The Viridian tried to join the attack, attempting to coordinate with the others, but they were too tired to work together effectively. Deho absorbed hits that he couldn't avoid, grunted with pain, and kept fighting. 20 minutes. The Ethon collapsed, completely exhausted. The Kryn was swaying on his feet. The Viridian was still analytical, still fighting smart, but even smart fighting required energy. At 25 minutes, Deho's shoulder was dislocated from a lucky hit by the Kryn. He dropped his weapon, grabbed his arm, and with a practiced motion and a terrible popping sound, forced the joint back into place. He picked up his weapon and continued fighting. The arena was silent except for heavy breathing and the sound of training weapons hitting bodies. At 30 minutes, the Kryn fell, just sat down, unable to stand anymore. The Viridian faced Deho alone. They circled each other slowly. Both were exhausted. Both were injured, but the Viridian's 3 hearts were pounding at maximum rate. Deho's single heart beat steadily. The Viridian attacked, a desperate combination of strikes. Deho blocked most, took some, and counterattacked. They traded blows, neither giving ground. At 35 minutes, the Viridian's legs gave out. He fell to his knees, weapon clattering to the floor. "I cannot continue," he gasped. Deho lowered his weapon and helped the Viridian stand. "Good fight," he said simply. The arena erupted in shocked murmurs. The human had won through pure endurance. No special abilities. No superior strength or speed. He had simply refused to stop. Medics rushed in. Deho waved them off. "Just the shoulder. It's fine." He walked to the edge of the arena, sat down and pulled out a rice ball from his ever-present lunch supplies. Hana approached with water. "That was impressive." "Thanks." He ate while medics examined his shoulder against his protests. "Deho, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Does anything we have done here frighten you? Push you past your limits?" Deho thought about it while chewing. "It's all been hard. Everything hurt. But frightened? No, this is just training. Controlled environment, medical staff, meals provided. It's tough but fair. What would frighten you? Real combat, maybe. Where if you quit, people die. That's scary. This is just practice." Hana made a final note in her data pad. The report she had been compiling over 12 weeks was complete. It was the most terrifying document she had ever written. That evening, Commander Velthar called a special assembly. All 15 survivors were present, along with Academy staff and a holographic feed to the Galactic Council. 12 weeks ago, 200 of the galaxy's finest warriors began this program. Velthar began. 15 survived. "You have proven yourselves worthy of joining the Galactic Defense Force." Applause from the staff. The cadets stood straighter despite their exhaustion. "But I must also confess something," Velthar continued. "This program was designed as a test. Not of you, but of humanity." He gestured to Deho. "The Galactic Council invited Earth to send a representative because they believed humans were primitive and weak. They wanted to prove humans had no place among the advanced species." The room went silent. They were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Velthar pulled up a holographic display showing Earth. "This is a death world. A planet where the environment actively tries to kill all life. Humans evolved not through advantages but through endurance. They survived by refusing to die." Images flashed across the display. Human history, wars, disasters, survival against impossible odds. "We designed this program to break warriors, to find the strongest among the strong. But we were not training the human. We were torturing our own cadets while the human was on vacation." Shocked faces throughout the assembly. The 50-kilometer run with heavy packs? Standard human military training. The sleep deprivation? Humans have done this for 5 days straight. The environmental extremes? Humans live in all of those conditions on their homeworld. Every exercise we created to push you to your limits was normal for the human. Velthar turned to Deho. "Cadet Deho, step forward." Deho walked to the center of the arena, still eating his rice ball. "You have completed this program with the highest marks in endurance and adaptability. You have shown qualities that we did not know were possible. You have changed how we understand what warriors can be." Velthar presented him with the Academy's highest honor, a crystal badge that marked him as elite. "On behalf of Theros Academy and the Galactic Council, I apologize. We underestimated your species. We will not make that mistake again." Deho accepted the badge. "Thank you, sir. It was good training, though the food could use more seasoning." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. The holographic feed showed council members conferring rapidly. Finally, the council speaker addressed the assembly. "In light of recent findings, Earth's status is immediately upgraded to Tier 1 membership in the Galactic Council. Furthermore, we formally request that Earth provide training advisors for the Galactic Defense Force. We have much to learn from humanity." More applause. The other cadets approached Deho, offering respect and congratulations. Mirai bowed deeply, all 4 arms extended in a gesture of ultimate respect. Later in private, Hana gave Velthar her final report. "This is 78 pages, Velthar said. "Yes, sir, and I could have written more. Humans are the most fascinating and terrifying species I have ever studied." "Give me the summary." "Humans are persistence, predators who evolved on a death world. They cannot match other species in any single category of ability, but they can outlast every species in combined endurance. They adapt in real time to conditions that would kill most galactic species. Their pain tolerance is extremely high. Their mental resilience is exceptional. They have a cultural emphasis on never quitting that borders on madness. And the conclusion? Never fight a war of attrition against humans. They will outlast you. They will adapt to your weapons. They will endure your attacks. And when you are exhausted, when you think you have won, they will still be there, still fighting, still refusing to quit. Velthar nodded slowly. The council needs to read this. Sir, if I may, there is one more thing. Yes? Deho mentioned that this training was moderate compared to Earth's Special Forces selection. He said this casually while eating lunch. I do not think he was exaggerating. Velthar's scales rippled. That means there are humans who can do more than what we witnessed? Many humans, sir. Deho is average by human Special Forces standards. He said so himself. They both looked out the window to where Deho was walking toward the barracks, carrying his lunchbox, looking forward to a good night's sleep. We invited them because we thought they needed us, Velthar said quietly. But I think we need them far more than they need us. 3 months later, Deho stood in front of a new class of cadets, 200 fresh warriors from across the galaxy, ready to prove themselves,